Hello, everybody. Warm welcome to Amazing You podcasts and YouTube channels, the channels where stories of resilience, triumph, and unwavering hope come to life. And today, we are here to dive into the inspiring journey of individuals who have faced the toughest challenges heads on and emerged victorious. Our aim is to be a beacon of inspiration, offering a guiding light to those navigating through difficult times. And whether you are dealing with health challenges, professional setbacks, or personal struggles, this channel is dedicated to uplifting your spirit and showing you that even in the darkest moments, there is a path to hope and triumph. So join us, everyone, as we share powerful stories that transcend adversity, reminding you that resilience is a force within us all. So be prepared, everyone, to be inspired and to find the strength to navigate life challenges. I am your host. My name is Dr. Rani Kanakodi. I am a clinical hypnotherapist using rapid transformational therapy method. I am a breathwork coach, Mars, Venus, life and relationship coach, astrologer, tarot reader, life force compassion practitioner, and past life regression practitioner. And today, I am very excited and honored to introduce you to my very special guest, all the way from the US. Her name is Patricia Hill. Patricia is a spiritual coach. She has been a spiritual coach for 15 years, and she has facilitated small VIP groups and retreats in Spain, in the UK, and in the United States. So warm welcome to Amazing You, Patricia.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. I'm very honored to have you. We've been having a few conversations and finally you are here. So thank you for taking the time to talk to the audience today.
Thank you.
And my first question to you, Patricia, is can you share briefly about your journey, how you become a spiritual coach, and what led you to this path 15 years ago, Patricia?
Well, I think I was always a curious child. And one of the things that is on my website is about how I went to church at 5 on my own without any supervision. I've always been curious about the truth, even though I probably didn't know what the truth was when I was 5. But I was guided, I'm sure, by God and my angels. And, my mother had post-traumatic stress disorder, which I didn't know that until my higher self kind of revealed that to me. Or later on, like 5 years ago, basically. And so what I wanted to say is I never understood she would just be terrorizing when she went into those cycles. And so anything could trigger her. It didn't have to be anything big. It could be something very small, just anything that triggered her regulation, her self-regulation would just set her off. It didn't have to be anything tragic. She didn't have to be angry to be triggered. And so that created me to be very guarded or very sensitive to my surroundings. So I think that brought that, as all those cycles were created in me, those imprints of, misunderstanding and feeling desperate because I didn't understand or feel safe in my environment. There was that constant searching, and I was led to like a metaphysical church. So that's kind of where I started to meditate. And I always questioned why I always wanted to go home and meditate again. I was like, why do I want to do this all the time? And so then after that happened, I got really frustrated because I had done a lot of different kind of work. I meditated and journaled and did affirmations and everything. None of it really worked like for me, because I know now that when you have a lot of unresolved emotions, affirmations don't work because you don't resonate with the affirmation. So I finally got really, really frustrated after multiple attempts to feel better and having relationships that would fall apart or attract people that are, you want to call the toxic masculine, let's just call it that. I finally was pleaded really with God, like, what works? And so I went to this 5-day seminar, and they were talking about patterns and things like that. And so at the end of that seminar, I just received, that was like my first really big experience, because I received a download for like months. And I would write. So that's how the Pulse of the Heart Truth was created, was through these downloads of all this information that I hadn't really learned in a book per se, but it was all this information that I remembered. And so that's how it began.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for sharing that, for sharing part of your journey. And I think lots of us can relate to what you just shared with us, because many of us, we had very dysfunctional childhood. We might not realize it, but our environment was not always a safe place.
Exactly.
And these have caused a lot of stuck, unresolved emotions in our body. Yeah.
Yes.
And and I think it was great that you showed that how this later has helped you to create your own program, which is called the Pulse of the Heart Truth. So can you tell us a bit more about that program?
Well, Pulse stands for Power, Understanding, Love, Surrender, Evolve. So what the program goes through is your story and how you imprinted, as well as what your true essence is, your higher self essence. So you receive the information of how you imprinted through your story, your physical story, but then your spiritual self, there's also energy around that too that I can decode. That gives people a toolkit, so to speak, or some self-awareness. And then we go into, boundaries and mother, father wound, if you want to call it that, where we have misunderstandings and how we can see that differently. But what was emotionally trapped within our emotional body in those experiences with our parents, right? That were had so much discomfort or dis-ease. So I take them through that, and then the evolution of the Heart Truth goes into soul aspects. So that's another piece of the work where there's 7 soul aspects, and each one of us has a specific aspect that is developed through our own personal determination. And all the other 6 are an evolution of our life, right? So there's one aspect that we have to focus on ourselves, but the other 6 people usually show up for us to help activate those aspects. So that's kind of the second piece of that is seeing how the soul is moving you through these different aspects through whatever you understand or misunderstand. And then what's happening for me now, is what I'm understanding from another perspective, is the vagus nerve and the nervous system, and dysregulation versus self-regulation, and how that affects your spirit, how dysregulation really is disconnection from God, and connection is really a regulated vagus nerve, and that's what that is. And how easy it is to disconnect, because the disconnect happens in your neck, which is C1, C2. So as you add all those pieces together, you have this harmonious pathway to understanding yourself and also helping to regulate yourself with that knowledge and understanding and freeing yourself and forgiving yourself and others, if you want to say it like that.
Wow, thank you so much. I love the work that you do because you look at the different soul aspects as well, which is very important, and very in-depth work, which is very different from what other coaches are doing. So you really go deep with the client, which is wonderful because that's where the root cause of those issues. It's about really rediscovering ourselves and going to the core of who we really are. Thank you. This is incredible work that you are doing. Thank you so much, Patricia.
You're welcome.
Patricia, I am curious to know because people who are listening, I'm sure, would love to know as well that you've experienced all these different traumas in your childhood. And how did you start to heal yourself? What is it that you did to start healing yourself? Because that would help people who are in those experience those situations but haven't gone on that journey yet.
I think one big key, and you may agree with this, is learning is self-acceptance. Like being okay with who you are, the good and the bad. Because it's not good or bad. It's just who we are. We have a collection, as you know, of ancestral patterns that we come in with. So we're going to be given experiences through those patterns. So you're going to respond to those patterns from the consciousness that you have in that point of your life. So if you miss the mark, it's not because you were bad or wrong. It's because that's all you knew. So that's where innocence becomes innocence.
I love that. Yes, I think that's very important that you mentioned that because very often we blame ourselves, you know.
Most of it.
Yes, and knowing that there is nothing wrong with us is just we come here on that journey and it's the environment, the conditioning, but we are not broken. We are here to heal. We can discover who we are, our true self again. There's nothing lost. There's nothing bad in us, and I think that's very powerful because so many people, they think they are broken. I used to think about that a long time ago, that there's something wrong with me.
Right.
It's so easy to start to judge ourselves, and having that self-acceptance is very important on that healing journey. Yeah. Thank you.
I agree. I think, one other point,
Yes.
is what I was kind of feeling is, what we have to understand, that light brings up the trauma or the pattern. So it's going to continue to bring that up until you are able to change your perspective or transmute it within yourself, which means just allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and change the behavior from a place of, I understand I didn't know better, but now I could choose better.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that, Patricia. That is very, very valuable point that you made. And I have a great teacher called Marisa Peer, and she always used to tell us, feel the feelings until it's no longer required to be felt, until you don't feel it.
Exactly.
Because the feelings is the most important thing that's within us. It's feelings.
Exactly.
Yes. So thank you for sharing that. So reconnecting with our feelings and allowing ourselves to feel the pain is very important, because we tend to push it down with food, with addiction. We do all sorts of things to hide it. But when we are able to feel those feelings and to let it out, to either with a therapist or you, if you can do it by yourself, but very often we need someone to
Yes,
help
I
us to
agree.
process that. And that is such a release for the body, because otherwise it will go and create some stuck emotions blocking the parts of the body. So, yes, feeling the feelings and sitting with those feelings instead of keeping ourselves busy and or doing other taking drugs to forget about that. Yes, thank you. And you talk about reconnecting with the higher self earlier on, with the true self. And for
Right.
somebody who is new today, who is watching this podcast for the first time, or who is not very familiar with that idea, how would you, Patricia, describe the higher self?
Um, the higher self is an aspect of you that never left. You're just not aware of your higher self. It's always there. It's really your God self. And I my first introduction to the higher self as an experience was when I was in one of my spaces, sort of meditating or very relaxed. This energy just kind of came in and intuitively asked me some questions. It says, "Ask me my name." It said, "Now ask me, what would you like me to know?" And that's when my higher self showed me in like a split second that my mother had post-traumatic stress, and she flashed back. My higher self took me to this time when I was 5, and my mother was having one of her meltdowns. And in that moment, I knew she had post-traumatic stress. No one had ever told me my mother had post-traumatic stress, you see. So that was my first introduction to the higher self. So after that happened, my higher says, "This is how you could show others." So I always ask them to call in the light to come through the crown into the heart and envision this beautiful golden triangle on the left side of their body, and just ask the higher self to come into the heart and, down into the root, and then give the higher self full authority over you, because your higher self sees your best timeline. It wants you to be happy. It doesn't want you to be in this overwhelm all the time. So that's sort of how I learned about the higher self, from an experiential space, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes 100% sense. Thank you so much, because you explained it so clearly and you showed us how to do it. So I think that's been very, very helpful. Thank you for explaining it so clearly, Patricia.
You're welcome.
There's so many things you've got. You've got so much wisdom. There's so many things to ask you, and but I can't go that deep because of the amount of time. So I'm covering as much as I can so that the audience can get as much from you today on different areas. So what do you see, Patricia, as the main causes of emotional suffering in people's lives today?
I think they don't know who they are, so they're distracted by the outer world, and that's real easy for anybody. Even as much as I know, I can get distracted. But to be able to honor your heart and the God essence in your heart helps you to dissolve some of the suffering, because you stop looking outside of yourself for answers, because they're within your heart space. Is that?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. Yes. And when we talk of suffering, It's very often attached to our past emotions, past experiences,
Mhm.
past conditioning.
Right.
So, what practices or tools do you use to help people to release the past attachments?
Well, I help them to see where the attachment is, like with the father, and then the belief, which brings up the belief that holds the memory, and the memory holds the emotion. So it's like helping them to see what they're holding on to so they can shift their perspective in that deep way, because that shifts the energy. Once the hidden is no longer hidden in the emotional body through that awareness, then everything lightens up, right? So it starts to lighten up. Like I have a client right now that's very like, we're all here exactly where we need to be, but she's kind of like step one, right? She's had a lot of trauma. She's dealing with a father who's sick that she has to take care of, and it's a lot of financial burden and all the stuff that is hard on adults anyway. And so I've been coaching her through all of that storyline and helping her to shift her perspective and take her power back, right? And to speak her truth, because her throat chakra is really blocked because she has held on to a lot of trauma. And so I'm helping her layer by layer, right, to become aware of her power and how to speak up, and let her know that sometimes she may scream, but that's okay. At least you're using your voice, right? It's not always going to be like what we've learned. We can respond now because we've gone through that level of being reactive, even though sometimes we are. But so I'm teaching her that even if she screams or if she's triggered and it all comes out wrong, it's still good because you're using your throat chakra. So I'm just helping her to be more empowered and to see the good in this situation instead of all the negative, because it is a negative situation on a lot of levels, but you can see the blessing in it as well. So helping her to move through all those perspectives.
Yeah, yeah. So there's definitely a lot of things going on with that client that she's got to peel those different layers and step by
Mm-hmm.
step. Yeah, yeah. Thank you
Yes.
so much for sharing that example. Yeah. So, what advice, Patricia, would you give somebody today who is listening and watching, who feels stuck in old patterns, they, but he or she doesn't know where to begin?
I think one of the things that helps people is to ask themselves, why are they doing what they're doing? Almost like ask yourself, why am I allowing myself to be disrespected? Let's just put it that way. Like, okay, what do I want from this person? What do I want from this person? And why am I allowing them to disrespect me? Because disrespect affects your well-being, and your well-being should be a priority. But somewhere along the line, a client may have learned that I need people around me no matter what the cost. So I'm willing to be disrespected at the cost of my well-being. So they have to get very honest with themselves, is I think the biggest turnaround. They have to be honest. They have to go somewhere, even with a friend they can trust, and sit and really get honest and be able to maybe have that friend say, well, I notice you always do X, Y, and Z, and be able to hear it and not be triggered and go, I don't do that. Or, is being that deep self-honesty, I think, is what opens the doorway to some relief and some action that will create a more harmonious experience for that person.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely true. It's about really being authentic to
Yes.
ourselves and honest with ourselves, because when we experience a lot of trauma, we disconnected with ourselves at a very young age. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like in some way we lose ourselves in the process. It's about like we we try to live the life of other people rather than our own
Yes.
lives and being true to ourselves. So we do
You'll,
everything to please others. We are ready to compromise to make others happy, but we lose ourselves in that process. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's so important to take our power back and to really sit down and look, where is it in my younger years? Because when this happened, we do it unconsciously in our childhood to
Yes,
protect ourselves, like as a coping survival mechanism.
right. And I think we try to attach ourselves to other people by being a people pleaser because
Yeah.
it helps us to feel safe because we're afraid to be abandoned.
Yes. But then
And
later
that,
when we grow up, it doesn't serve us.
no, and then that becomes a vicious cycle. And another insight, what I've just kind of learned, and I'm working on this piece to understand it more from a spiritual perspective, not just an analytical perspective. But in order for the soul to express itself in an authentic way, we have to cultivate values, spiritual values, as well as the structure of our own personal principles. And that help the soul to grow in a more authentic way where it can hold more. Does that make sense?
Yes, Patricia, it makes 100% sense, because I was listening and watching a course by a very well-known speaker, and he talked about the importance of knowing what your values are. Because when you know what your values are, you will not compromise for something that is much less. You will not,
Right.
you will not, you will first start to respect your own values, and it's like it's respecting yourself, who you are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, right. And what I get too is, values evolve. So the values your parents had and the values you have now as an adult may be different because they expand and grow, right? Or grow and expand.
Yes.
So that's okay. And it's good to reflect on the values you learned from your parents and what are true for you now, because they may be totally different. It's okay to change those values to be your own person.
That's a great point you made. Yes, because our parents' values don't have to be our values. Not at all. You know?
Right.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that, because values do evolve because we are always growing and evolving. What my values were 5 years ago, it's not the same as we keep growing within ourselves. So it's okay for these values to change, but it's important to know what our core values are. Yeah.
And that takes time. That's another deep dive,
Yeah.
because you've got to really look at what you think is valuable and what really is valuable.
Yes.
Right.
And my other question to you, thank you so much, Patricia. It's so wonderful talking to you, because you've got so much insight and you go to so much depth. It's really a pleasure having that conversation with you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So what daily or weekly practices do you recommend for anybody to stay connected to the heart and to our one true self, Patricia?
Well, I think everybody should learn their own personal style of meditation, whether it's just being mindful while you wash the dishes, as they say, or you go for a walk and you just pay attention to nature, right? You just pay attention to the grass and the trees and the butterflies. Just be so aware and present. Because the more you do that, the more you're in the consciousness of God, so to speak, or the energy of God, versus in that fast track of the busyness of this reality. I just think that you have to find time in your day to do something for yourself, even if you only have 15 minutes, but give your full attention, give it to yourself.
Thank you, Patricia. I really do love that because the more still we are, the more time we give ourselves, the more we can really connect to our true essence and discover things about ourselves and
Mhm.
heal ourselves as well on that.
Yes, I agree. When we
Yeah,
slow
because
down, yeah, I think when you slow down
mhm,
is when you really do start to heal because
yes,
it's all of a sudden you're back. You become a valuable part of your own existence, right? Instead of putting yourself to the side all the time.
yes. And that's what coaches and therapists they help clients to really focus during those sessions and to
Mhm.
connect with who really the core of who they are because people are so busy running around and that's what society has conditioned us to be running around to be competing, but that's not where the happiness is. The happiness, the joy, the healing happens when we start to slow down and connect with who we are. It's a game changer, isn't it,
Yeah,
Patricia? Yeah.
I agree. Yes.
And we are reaching towards the end, Patricia. So where can our viewers and listeners learn more about your work or get involved in your programs?
Um, to go to my website, which is www.accessyourintuition.com.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Patricia. And everybody will see the link appearing below. Feel free to reach out to Patricia on her link. And I'm sure there's a lot of things you will find on her website. So please dive in. And any final words, any final thoughts before we end the podcast, Patricia?
Well, there's my little granddaughter who's 6. She channeled something just the other day, and it was very powerful. So I just want to read it.
Please.
It says, this is how it came through, and I asked her to repeat it. So it says, in your heart is self. Breathe in, breathe out. Concentrate on one thing. Close your eyes and think about good things.
Oh, how beautiful, how powerful. Thank you.
Isn't that powerful? I just was.
How wonderful it is for a little girl to share something like that. To
That was so powerful. I was like, isn't
yeah,
that like encapsulate everything we just said? If you
yes.
just do that every day, you don't have to do anything else. Okay, there you go.
Thank you for sharing that. These are really, really powerful things to do, and it comes
Mhm.
from a little girl. Wow.
Right, that has not been told any of this. This is her pure essence speaking the truth. Yep. So I thought that might be worth sharing.
I think we always have to learn from each other and even from the younger ones now because they come with so much wisdom, the children that are coming now. Yeah.
Yeah, they know a lot, don't
They
they?
know a
More than
lot.
we do, really. We just listen to them.
Yes, yes. It was similar with my nieces. I was learning so much from both of them. And one of them, she was so good at listening to her body. I learned from her how she would listen to her body and only accept food that she she knows her body would agree.
That's beautiful.
Oh yes, I learned that from her and I was so amazed to watch her doing that. She did it like it it came naturally to her that this
Yeah.
she shouldn't eat, but this she can eat, her body would digest. It was, and she would never eat more, never overeat, but eat right amount. It was, I learned a lot from her.
Well, that's beautiful. She's not been programmed. You see, that's her natural essence, and we have it too. It just got
Yes.
smothered, smothered with all the programming, if you want to say it that way.
100% agree. Yes, yes. So it's now time to deprogram to reprogram ourselves, and to let go of these old programming, because these are not ours. We acquired them along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Patricia, for taking your time to be with the audience today. It's been really a great pleasure
Welcome.
having this conversation with you and listening to your wisdom. And I am wishing you the very best in
Thank
everything
you.
that you do. You are welcome. And I would say a huge thank you to the audience for subscribing, sharing, listening, and liking the podcast for the past 4 years.
Oh,
And for,
wow.
and
Beautiful.
for yes, and for anybody who is new today, I want to welcome you and thank you for being here. And I hope you've learned something that you can take away and put into practice in your life. And I wish you all to have a great life, to always be happy. And remember that you are amazing. You have always been amazing, and you always will be amazing. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.